Hello everyone, Brittany Elliott here, and in today's video, we're going to talk about renting versus homeownership. We're going to go over the pros and cons, and most importantly, the information you need in order to decide which is best for you. But before we get started, if you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on future videos, including financial tips and investment strategies. Okay, let's get started. True or false? Renting is throwing money away. I'm sure many of you have heard this phrase before. Lots of financial gurus like to preach it on a daily basis and say that homeownership is the only responsible choice. They say renting is throwing your money away, getting a landlord rich while you fall behind, and the list goes on. But the reality is actually much more complex than that. It includes things like, what area do you want to live in? How long do you plan on staying there? What kind of lifestyle do you want to have? What is your current financial situation, etc. Now, before I continue, let me give you just a little bit of background about my situation. So over the course of my life, to the recording of this video, I have owned a total of 7 homes. Some of these have been my primary residence, and others have been investment properties. So I'm not a newbie when it comes to this topic. As of the recording of this video, I am currently renting for a variety of reasons, so I'm familiar with the aspects of both sides of this discussion. So back to the question, true or false, renting is throwing money away? And the answer is, it depends. Renting can actually prove to be a much more beneficial option for many people. The main point I want to get across at the beginning here is this. Do not buy a home simply because you've heard people say it's the smarter option. It's important for you to fully evaluate your options and determine what makes the most sense for you in your current situation. Now, here's another commonly heard phrase. Mortgage payments are cheaper than rent. While that phrase itself might technically be true, your mortgage payment might be less than what your rent payment may be. And obviously that depends on a number of factors. But that phrase itself can't just be looked at as a standalone thing, because many first-time home buyers and even some repeat buyers that haven't owned for a very long time fail to take into account there's a lot of other expenses that go along with owning a home that you would not have or would have much smaller expenses with renting. When you own a home, you have other expenses such as property taxes, homeowners insurance, maintenance and repairs, lawn and landscaping upkeep. Your utility bills are often much higher than they would be if you were, say, in an apartment, for example. All of these things can make homeownership much more expensive than people initially expected it to be. And so they all need to be taken into account when you're deciding how much house you can really afford. For example, you need to plan on spending anywhere from 1% to 4% of your home's value annually on expenses for maintenance and repairs. So if you buy a $250,000 house, this means to plan on spending anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000 per year on maintenance and repair expenses. Now, obviously, some years this will be really low, and other years it could be really, really high. Remember, water heaters go out, furnaces, air conditioning units go out, roofs need to be replaced eventually, appliances, all of these things can just suddenly have you spending thousands of dollars more in a year than what you had planned on spending. This also doesn't just apply to repairs of something breaking. Think about it. If you're in your house for a long period of time, chances are, or even maybe when you first buy it even, you're going to want to replace flooring at some point. You might even want to do a kitchen remodel or update a bathroom. All of these things add additional costs to being a homeowner. Now, some people will say that they avoid these expenses by simply moving every 5 to 7 years to a newer home. But this in and of itself has its own expenses to consider as well. Chances are, if you are moving from your house to a newer house, specifically for this purpose, chances are the new house is more expensive than the house that you're leaving. So you have that added cost to consider. Then there will be closing costs on the new house, potentially higher mortgage interest rates or origination fees to consider. Then there's also packing supplies, hiring movers, or even just renting the moving truck is an added expense that you need to consider. You may end up needing to buy new furniture or artwork, things of that nature, because the new home, the room size might not be the same, or the layout may be different, or the wall colors are all different. So you either need to paint, which costs money, or, buy new things, which cost money. All of these things need to be kept in mind. Also, if you're leaving a house that is dated, or the roof is over 15 years old, or say the water heater or the furnace are already 3/4 of the way through their life, etc. All of these things are going to result in you getting less money for the house that you're selling than you would have if those things were more up to date. And unless you're selling the house yourself for sale by owner, you're going to also have 6% of whatever you sell that house for is going to go to the realtor. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but 6% is something to plan on as well. So I think you get the picture. Moving is expensive. Now, after saying all this, I'm not saying don't buy a house. As I mentioned earlier, I myself have owned 7 different houses across the course of my life so far, and homeownership can be a great thing if it fits your budget and it's what you want. The important thing is to seriously consider all of the costs associated with it so that you can make an informed decision. Not thinking about all of these extra additional costs is what often gets a lot of people into trouble. They purchase a house simply looking at the mortgage payment or the mortgage payment plus property taxes and insurance, and they include that in their budget and then buy the maximum cost of house that they can afford. But they've forgotten to take into account all of these other little things. So when things just start popping up, $1,000 here, $500 there, $1,500 there, then suddenly all of a sudden you can be in real financial trouble. Now let's look at the plus side. If you purchase a home that you can truly afford without struggling to pay your bills, homeownership can be a wonderful thing. Your monthly payments to your mortgage will be gradually increasing your equity that you have over time. Plus, the property value is most likely going to increase over time as well. Now let's switch over and take a look at renting. Renting can be a great option for many reasons, whether you are not sure if you're going to stay in an area very long, or you're working to save up a down payment for a house, or you simply want a virtually maintenance-free lifestyle. In most cases, if you're renting, you're generally not responsible for maintenance or repairs. So if the water heater goes out, or something's wrong with the furnace, or there's a leaky faucet, or something's wrong with your dishwasher, your window won't latch, whatever, all you usually have to do is just simply submit a little maintenance request and somebody comes in, takes care of it, and leaves, and you don't have a bill for it. If you're renting an apartment, your utility bills tend to be typically lower than what they would be in a house, since apartment square footage is usually lower. Plus, you're usually surrounded on at least one side or another by other units. This all helps keep your energy costs lower. Also, you likely don't have a lawn or landscaping to maintain, or sidewalks or driveways to shovel snow or sweep leaves off of. So there's just a lot less upkeep involved in renting. So with renting, your monthly expenses are much more predictable because you don't have to worry about unexpected maintenance costs popping up. It's also very convenient for those who like to travel. You don't have to worry about getting somebody to watch your house or take care of your lawn or your plants, etc. Now, a downside of renting is that your monthly payment is typically only locked in for a 12-month time period. That means at the end of each 12-month term, your rent could possibly increase. So, for example, several years ago, I was renting an apartment, and when my lease renewed, if I had chosen to stay there, my rent would have gone up about 4% from what it was the previous year. Fast forward to this current year, earlier this year, when my lease renewed in my current location, it went up a little over 9%. I'm sharing this to illustrate that it can vary widely depending on which market you're in and what the current conditions are. Now, it's just something that you need to be prepared for, but obviously you can also choose to move at the end of the 12 months. You don't have to, you don't own it. So you don't have to go and find somebody else to take your place and sell the house and go through all of that. But you can choose to move at any point when your lease is up, or even early, as long as you're willing to pay the termination fees. All that being said, even though my rent did increase over 9% this last renewal, it's still much more beneficial financially for my current situation to continue renting versus purchasing a home right now. So remember, both renting and homeownership have their pros and their cons. The biggest important thing for you to take away from this is it's extremely important for you to evaluate all of your options and choose what makes the best sense for your current situation based on your lifestyle, your budget, and where you plan to be in the next few years. I hope that you've learned something today and that this has been helpful to you. If you have any questions or comments or takeaways you'd like to share, please leave them in the comments below, and I'd love to I'd love to hear from you and answer any questions you may have. Also, please remember to click the like button because that helps this video reach more people. And also subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications bell so that you don't miss out on my future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.